And we are live. Okay, so let's try this again. My name's Mish, Trekkie, Year of Trek. We're going to talk about lower decks. I tried this about 5 o'clock today. My daughter had a volleyball game. She now every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we'll see how those go around the schedule. But I figured I'll just do it from the car. I have a cell phone. I figured out how to stream from the phone. It's really easy to do it from this thing. And, yeah, so it was kind of in the middle of nowhere, but, yeah, one bar, and I didn't, yeah. So if you tuned in, I'm sorry. Okay. So let's talk about lower decks. From here on out, from here on out, we're going to have spoilers. So if you have not watched episode 5, an embarrassing of Dooplers, then go watch the episode and come back. Okay. There you go. All right. So, I had a really busy day today. Of course, I watched our normal Star Trek episodes, which I will be doing a podcast on right after this one. And then I watched this episode last night, tired. I was not really impressed at first, but I was like, it's probably because I'm tired. So I'm going to give it another whirl. So after I got all the things I needed to get done today, I rewatched it, and I actually kind of enjoyed the episode. It wasn't super exciting, didn't have a lot of humor in it, but I think that there was a lot of character development, and I enjoyed that. So my little script thing here isn't as organized as it has been. But if we go over the episode, we're looking at 3 primary, well, let's say this. We have one primary plot, and that's the one with Boimler and Mariner. And they're going to go to this super high level officers party on this one space station that they're going to. And they don't think that they'd be able to get in, because they're on the Cerritos or the Cerritos. The Cerritos, I'll get that down. So, but they're just not, they're lower deck people. And this is usually for higher level people or say whatever. So, so Boimler is, basically identifying as his transporter clone. That's the plan. And then it's essentially getting to the party. So they have that kind of adventure. Then the other little subplot, we have Tindy and Rutherford, and they're kind of working on kind of a model of the Cerritos. But then you have this behind the scenes that kind of opens up plot complication that has to do with this race, the Dooplers, where if they get really embarrassed or whatever, they duplicate, they split. So, and it opens up, what I find, it opens up at this dinner that there's tension. I almost read this as the dinner from Star Trek 6, where you have Kirk, Spock, and the crew with the Klingons. Now, just because of the tension. Now, there was no quoting of Shakespeare or anything like that, but that's kind of what I got from that. And then, of course, with that, when they get to the station, the captain is just like, Captain Freeman is like, I'm so, she's telling, I guess it's the commander of the space station. She's like, I'm so glad that we're here. This guy has just been on my nerves. It's just been so tension. And this guy overhears it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. And then he splits. And then of course it becomes kind of an overdoing thing. They kind of overdid it on that part. But I have a theory about that. So hold on. Now, if we follow Mariner and Boimler, now of course it goes straight into the music, like the intro. There is no like little setup. It just goes, it just is black, and then it goes to music. In fact, I think the first time when I saw it last night, at midnight, it just said TV 14, and then boom, the music started. Today, when I watched it, I don't remember seeing the TV 14 thing. So now she does open it up as Stardate 58053.9, which is probably getting into about February. At some point, I'll figure out my formula. So following Mariner and Boimler, they get down, they basically use this Doopling guy to, they said, okay, we're going to use this as an escape, to get onto the station. They'll never notice, corrupted is the wrong word, but basically, overridden transporter logs. And so when they get on there, and she's like, oh, I used to live here. And, she says, it's really nice. Not that bad. It kind of smells like pee. I thought that was kind of cute. They go to, they end up going to this one shop of somebody that she knows. And of course, he claims that he stranded her on, or she stranded him on SETI Alpha 4. And she's like, but I thought that there was life there. And so totally a play on Wrath of Khan, SETI Alpha 5, and it's SETI Alpha 6, all that kind of stuff. So to kind of pay him back, they're going to, they do this. They're going to transport, data bubble bath, containers. And it's so funny because when he opens it up and you've got all these little datas in these bottles, Boimler picks it up and he goes, oh, are you sure this one isn't a lore? And then the guy's like, well, maybe a couple of them are lore. So that was kind of cute. Not overly funny, but cute. And of course, plot complication. They're really, they start getting pursued by, the police of the station, and don't know if this was, well, I think everything is on purpose with this show. After watching the, Star Trek Day with their little presentation in it, for, Lower Decks, I think everything, Mike Matthews, probably getting that name wrong. Anyway, he talked about how much Trek they're trying to get into Trek. And even though this reference isn't Trek, to me, the security actually looked like judges from Judge Dredd. Just they had that look to them. And so of course, their security is chasing them, and they're driving around. They run through a barber shop. Or they drive through a barber shop, and all of the barbers looked like Mr. Mott from The Next Generation. They drive through a clothing store. And the one thing that kind of stood out to me was that the fabric, they had tubes with the fabric kind of hanging out of the tubes, just like it did in Farpoint Station in the pilot of Next Generation. We see a Morn, or a creature like Morn from DS9. They run past a Christopher Pike wheelchair, beeps and everything. Now, it wasn't Christopher Pike, but they run around him, and you just see this guy kind of, and he goes beep, beep, beep. So that was kind of funny. Boimler, there's another race that we haven't seen in a while. He's like fish people. And of course you hear them say, we're not fish people. These were actually from the next generation, a callback from the Next Generation. They were Antedians, Antedian. Anyway, so Mick Fleetwood from Fleetwood Mac actually was in the episode Manhunt, and that was he played an Antedian dignitary. So, but it was that race. It was that race that we see in the episode. So anyway, so, there's a chase. They're continuing chase. Finally, they get away from the security and they splash into like a little lagoon. And of course, there's bubbles all over because of the Data bubble bath. I just can't get over that. I think that's kind of funny. Anyway, so Boimler, they're getting out of the water going, oh, we're drenched. We shouldn't go. And he's like, I just barfed up bubble bath. So I thought that was cute. And of course, Mariner's like, I was there. You don't need to, tell me. And she's like, no, we are going to this thing. She says, I didn't put on underwear for nothing. That's kind of funny. Like, what does she not wear underwear? I know she's a cartoon character, but I just, it's funny because I know people who they don't normally wear underwear. This goes for guys and girls, but they will put on underwear if they're going somewhere nice, like they're dressing up. So that's why I found that kind of funny. So when they actually get to the party, of course, Boimler can go because he says he's his clone. And because Mariner is just an ensign on the Cerritos. I got it right. She was not allowed in, even as his +1. So then they have this big to do. And this has kind of been like a banter back and forth through the entire episode of, her, what is it? Her leaving him leaving her, basically stranding, and it really came down that she was, and we've kind of known this, she's mentioned it, but they really haven't truly talked about, how she felt stranded by him when he went to the Titan. And he's like, look, I got promoted, that, I would hope that you would be happy for me. And the same, like if she had gotten promoted, but of course, we know Mariner, she doesn't want to get promoted. So they kind of have that out. And so he ends up going, she ends up leaving and going to a bar. So he points out Captain Shelby, and she looks, they drew her just like, minus, of course, the updated uniform, but she looks just like she did in the Next Generation episodes, Best of Both Worlds. And then he says, Captain Exley. Now, and because he's pointing out captains and their number ones. And so Captain Exley, do we know him from somewhere? The name sounds so familiar. I don't know if we met him in the past. Anyway, so that's why I was like, do we know him? So, they're kind of going back and forth now. Now, as all of that is going on, we kind of, we jump back and forth between Mariner and Boimler, who actually have most of the screen time, and then to the little storyline of Tindy and Rutherford. Now, they're actually working on a toy ship of the Cerritos, and it's like almost realistic. Like it shoots phasers, it flies, all that kind of stuff. So as the Dooplers are duplicating, it's basically they're running back and forth, and Rutherford going, why can't I remember? Cause he's finding notes, and he's like, I'm just not as smart as the old me, and blah, blah, blah. And so, he's like, I've lost a year of my life, and all, and so it's that relationship between the two of them that's kind of, that's kind of tension here. And so finally, there's this escape hatch that had been sealed apparently the year before that Rutherford didn't remember about. And he's like, "Ooh, we can use the warp core to and explode the warp core, and then that'll open it up." From the toy. So apparently this little toy actually has a mini warp core. And it was so funny because when they open it up, like they use little tweezers to get out little ID cards, and they slide them in the spot, and then it pops out, and then he throws it up and it blows up. I thought that was kind of cute. I did get a kick out of that. And then of course, we go back to the bar, the bar where Mariner is, and Boimler ends up showing up. And so they start talking, and I wrote down some notes of kind of what we start seeing in the background. We have a picture of Voyager. We have a cigarette machine. At least that's what I read it as. They're drinking out of these glass octagon glasses. That is totally, and I don't know if anybody has caught on this. This is totally a callback to the Next Generation, because the first couple seasons that they had, when they had dinner in their quarters or even drinks at 10 Forward, there were these octagon glasses, like clear glass, but they were octagon. This is how much of a Star Trek fan I was. I found out what brand that was, and I bought myself a whole set. So it actually came with, it's like a plate and glasses. So I had like little glasses. I had the taller glasses. The taller glasses like this, but not round. 16 ounces, and then the 8 ounce ones. I had little salad plates, octagon, clear glass, and then dinner plates. So it came all in a set. I think it was like, came a set of 4, just a standard place setting, a set of 4. So I totally because I actually owned that, I was like, ooh, they're totally, so that like those little details, I thought was pretty cool. Now, of course, after that, we jump, when we get back to when Captain Freeman kind of figures out, what's going on with the Dooplers, and, basically what does she say? She says, "Stop being whiny little shits." And of course it beeps out the shits, but you know what she says. They start merging. And so they kind of realize that, if you're soft on them and treat them with kid gloves, then they're like, "Oh, I feel so embarrassed," and they duplicate. But if you're just like really hardcore and you tell them like it is, they merge again. So problem solved. They get them all back into one person again. And as I was watching it the second time, I started to think now, and this kind of comes off of what Star Trek is. LeVar Burton put it so well last night. And I don't have a clip to pull up, but he basically talked about, and not just him, but a lot of people talked about how Star Trek, and this is kind of how Strange New Worlds is going to be. It's going to be episodic, but Star Trek has stories with morals. And if it's good writing, you don't really read them. You don't see the morals, you're like, "Oh, that was a really good story." And you're kind of feel inspired, but you don't know why. And then there's sometimes where you're just like, "Oh yeah, that is a story with morals." And then you feel like if it's bad writing, they're just like, "Here's a moral. We're going to shove it down your throat." So thinking morals to stories, I was this popped into my head, and I wrote this down. Okay. Because Star Trek originally, it was a commentary on the times, and it always has, no matter if original generation, Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, they always had contemporary stories. And I think one of the things that they have, I think one of the problems that I have with Discovery and kind of with Picard is, yes, there is commentary on what's going on now in today's time, but it's like they're shoving it. It feels like they're shoving it down their throat. It's like that Bible thumper on the street corner preaching. And, you know, if you're interested, you stand there and listen and amen, brother. But it instead of them just telling a good story, and for those people who can read the moral, it's that Bible thumper actually running up to you and hitting you with the Bible, because you have to understand what's going on and you have to get it. Anyway, I'm squirreling, but anyway, so on that whole Star Trek telling stories with morals, this is what I got from this story. And let me know in the comments if you got the same thing. And this is what I wrote. Is this commentary on how people are so easily butthurt nowadays? And it seems like everyone is, everyone is butthurt. And so it almost seems like people are multiplying. Like, one person gets butthurt and everyone, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. And it just seems like more and more and more and more people are basically playing victims. Just like this one character that they're treating with kid gloves, and he keeps on duplicating. But once they're like, dude, stop being a little bitch, you just do it and start being negative towards them. And I'm not saying that it's right to be negative to somebody, but to be real, to be like, you know what? Life is not fair. Own it and live with it. If you don't like it, make it better. Don't whine about it. That makes them stronger. That can make people stronger. And so I don't know. That's kind of what I got out of it. Don't know if you got out of it. Let me know in the comments. Of course, as they're yelling and negativities and all this kind of stuff at the Dooplers to calm the situation, I've had this feeling for a little while, but it really kind of struck me today. The engineer, and I couldn't tell you what his name is, reminds me of, and I'm not really a Simpsons fan. I want to say his name is Ned. He's the one with the big mustache and the Christian, the super Christian that lives next door or in the neighborhood. Anyway, just his look, almost. The chief engineer is giving me that vibe. I thought that was kind of funny. So, back to Mariner and Boimler. They're in the bar. They learn that Kirk and Spock actually sat at that same bar. You see their names etched in it. The bartender tells them. And so it's like, then they really start talking about it at that point, their discussion really turns to, I'm sorry you felt deserted. We're friends. And they actually kind of went back and forth on who was number one and who was captain. And so what I really liked about this episode in the overall scheme is that these characters kind of grew. They had this conflict. They threw shit at each other. They were a little bit passive aggressive, and then they talked about it. And then they were like, yeah, you're right. My bad, on both sides. And they were like, we're friends moving forward. We've always been friends. Don't know why, I'm sorry, And so it was really that character arc that I liked, that they were able to bring that around. And on both sides, not just the Boimler and Mariner, but also the Tindy and Rutherford. They also are friends. So yeah. Let's see. And of course, at the end, when they're, because now, of course, the captain, Captain Freeman and crew tried to go to this party and they were not allowed in. So they end up at the bar as well. And so it's like, Freeman's like, hey, I ended up hanging out with the people that I really like hanging out with anyway. I didn't really need those stuffy captains. And then Mariner's like, yeah, number one. And of course, Boimler is now number one. And she's like, Boimler is number one. And now he has to grow a beard. So thought that was a little cute. Watching it the first time, I was like, but I kind of attribute that to me being extremely tired yesterday. So, but overall I liked it. Not the greatest episode, but I think it had a lot of good, a lot of positive things happen, character development wise, story wise. It still kind of pushed the story forward. So I'm looking forward to next week. We're halfway through the season, and hopefully the last two episodes, specifically the last one that just wasn't that great, will move forward into better episodes. So that is all being said about that. I am going to tune off and turn back on because we have, of course, our Year of Trek, the 2 episodes we're supposed to watch today. And I will talk more about that then. So until then, live long and prosper. I'm Mish. I will see you literally in a minute or so on the next episode.